out. You know, it's Thanksgiving Eve. So many people in town to be with their family and friends, and this happens on an afternoon before Thanksgiving. To her point, a brazen crime.
And sadly, these were National Guardsmen who were more than likely probably not from our area,
Away
who are
from their families.
away from their own families. You know, we were talking about as the surge has went.
All right, so I want to bring it back a little bit so we can get
giving
up to
directions,
speed.
helping clean up trash from the streets of D.C., literally picking up trash, mulching, just making D.C. More beautiful. And so to have this happen, truly tragic situation. But again, the White House is on lockdown. You see police presence from all over the district here gathered in the area of 16th, 17th, and I on Connecticut. Just a block from the White House, you have the Metropolitan Police Department. They are getting ready for a media staging scene over on K Street. So we're hoping to bring you any statements they have in regards to the investigation and the very latest details on that. You also see FBI, ATF, Secret Service, all in the area. Again, one of the most protected and surveilled areas in the entire country, if not the entire world.
And as we know from that interview with the tourist, I mean, a lot of families visiting, folks that live here, a lot of people who just choose to come here during the holiday time as well. It's a high traffic area just for tourists walking about. And I'm sure a lot of people at that exact same moment were standing in Lafayette Park looking at the White House.
You saw the heavily presence there. They were moving those ropes back. All of the media, there's dozens of media out here covering this, trying to figure out what is going on as this is unfolding right here in front of us, just again a block from where Bob's at the White House. So they did push everybody back a block, and that included everybody that was out there kind of just curious as what was going on. We came across Trisha. Trisha said you heard sirens and she was in the area wanting to check out the White House. What was just your reaction when you heard everything that was kind of going down?
You know, at first we just heard sirens and didn't think much of it. We continued to walk. We were working our way to another metro station, and then security obviously was getting tighter. We asked.
All right, so she's not an eyewitness. What I want to do is I'm gonna bring in Live Now with Fox, and they're kind of bring us up to speed because I don't know what's going on here. You know, so I want to get some details.
All right, that event continues on right there in a digital form. We come back with some breaking news that we are monitoring outside near the White House. We are learning from the Associated Press reporting right now that 2 National Guardsmen have been shot near the White House. Active investigation is going on right now, and you can see the report there from the AP. Darlene Superville saying 2 National Guard members have been shot in Washington, D.C., and their condition isn't known at this time. We want to go out to the coverage of Fox 5 D.C., and looks like they are on this right now. Let's just show you the vantage point and the scene that you are seeing right now play out in D.C. Let's listen in from Fox 5 D.C.
There was reportedly an active shooter near 17th and I Streets. You see D.C. police on scene. You know, more than a dozen cruisers are there near 17th and I. This is near the White House.
Yeah, so Homa, the National Guard, as we know, they have been stationed across the city with mainly a support role for that federal surge that President Trump put into effect over the summer. But we have also seen a scaling back. We have also seen legal challenges to it. We know that some were supposed to be sent home. There was a recent ruling that the Guard was here illegally, but there was a 3-week wait for the Trump administration to be able to challenge that. So still a lot of people stationed here from not just here in D.C. as well, but also Guard members from Ohio, Louisiana, Tennessee, West Virginia as well.
And if you've been in D.C., in and around the district, any time in the last few months, you have seen them. They are at metro stops. They are at the National Mall. They have been walking all around city streets. Chris, like you said, they have been starting to dwindle their numbers down.
We also remember there was a debate over whether or not they would be armed when they were on the street, whether they would be carrying weapons with them. So that is probably one of the major questions here, too, is whether or not, if this was a random attack, if they were armed and able to even defend themselves.
And, right now, MPD saying that they're on scene. It's an active shooting, 17th and I Street. They're asking people avoid the area. They're shutting down streets. It appears that the White House area around the White House may be locked down. Yemisi, you are in and around the White House so often. When something like this happens, we know they're the most well-trained people in the world around that building.
Right. So we know that Secret Service immediately responded to it. And I'm sure that East Exec and West Exec and the road that divides the White House and the Treasury building, remember, there are employees probably at the Department of Treasury right now that are under lockdown as well. It's good to know for the viewers that the President and the First Lady both left yesterday to Florida.
All right, so I'm going to give you guys some some facts of what's going on. So Washington, AP, this is from the AP. I'll put it over here so we can all read it together. 2 National Guard members were shot Wednesday near the White House and are in critical condition. It's terrible news, ladies and gentlemen. Big shout out to everybody who's joining me today, guys. Please hit that like button. I see all of the kind words. Gotta poop says, gotta check it out. That Strategic is their news. Appreciate you. Zoe39 says that they're hardwired to press that like button. So we appreciate you guys. Please make sure you hit that like button, support the channel. All right, so let's just jump back into this. 2 National Guard members were shot Wednesday near the White House and are in critical condition, according to a law enforcement official not authorized to discuss the matter publicly and who spoke to AP on condition of anonymity. Excuse me. What's wrong with me? Anyway, a suspect who was in custody also was shot and has injuries that are not believed to be life-threatening. The source said 1 National Guard member was shot in the head. Jesus Christ. Definitely let's keep that National Guard member in our prayers. According to a person familiar with the details of the incident who spoke to AP on condition of anonymity. Oh, man. Emergency medical responders transported all 3 victims to a hospital. According to Vito Maggiola, the Public Information Office for the D.C. Fire Emergency Services, Joint D.C. Task Force confirmed they responded to the incident after reports of the shooting. Metropolitan Police Department also said they were on scene. Shooting happened at the corner of 17th and 8th Streets in the northwest quadrant of the city. Police tape cordoned off the scene where emergency fire and police vehicles, lights flash, and helicopter blades thudded overhead. They're writing a novel now. They're making it dramatic. I hear you. Agents from the U.S. Secret Service and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives were on scene as National Guard troops stood sentry nearby. At least 1 helicopter landed on a national mall. This is why these guys, if you're going to listen, whatever your beliefs may be politically, it is what it is. We are a country that's divided right now, literally. I think we all should agree that because remember, National Guard members are from your state, they're from your community, they're your neighbors, right? There's a lot of states that don't want National Guard in their state on the orders of Donald Trump, the President of the United States. I don't care what your political beliefs are. If we're going to force these people to go and serve, they should be armed. 100%. We could work out the politics in Congress. We could work out the politics in federal court, whether you remove them or you keep them or whatever. It doesn't matter. But if you're going to put them out there on those streets, especially since a lot of them are going on some of the most dangerous streets in America, they should be armed, ladies and gentlemen, not to support the president or to support the Republicans or support the Democrats, to protect your neighbors, to protect your family members who are just following orders and being sent out there. Somebody said the guard died. Horrible news. Horrible news. They should be armed because there's a lot of bad people out there who will try and, for so many different reasons, whether it's just criminality, whether they're just, some lone wolf, political terrorist type person who want to make a point, make an example out of somebody. There's so many different reasons why their lives are in danger. Sad. Very, very sad. I want to go ahead and verify that guardman died. Let me keep reading this. God bless our National Guard and all the military and law enforcement. These are truly great people, Trump wrote in a Truth Social post. I, as President of the United States, and everyone associated with the office of presidency, am with you. Presence of the National Guard in the nation's capital has been a flashpoint issue for months, fueling a court fight and broader public policy debate about the Trump administration's use of the military to combat what officials cast as an out-of-control crime problem. I mean, this certainly, if you're against having the National Guard in high-crime areas, this certainly does not help it. This certainly does not help it. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer wrote on social media that he was closely monitoring the shooting and that his heart breaks for the victims of this horrific shooting. Spokesperson for Mayor Muriel Bowser said that local leaders were actively monitoring the situation. Bowser had spent the morning at a Thanksgiving event at the convention center and then held a press conference to explain why she was not seeking re-election. So I guess she's not seeking re-election. That's interesting. That Muriel Bowser is not seeking re-election. Okay. Trump issued an emergency order in August, maybe because D.C. is a cesspool. Who wants to work there, right? Norma RN, 30 years, says that both have perished at this point. Both have perished at this point. I want to go ahead and I'm going to play some of the news because I want to go ahead and verify that. Maybe they might verify it in the news itself. Let's
to
do it.
continue to work on this and bring you the latest information. Also, the third victim. We understand there is a third person, possibly an innocent bystander, that was impacted by this or injured. That person is at the hospital. So we're continuing to make the calls and bring you the latest information. And we have our crews down there on the scene. But today, just after 2 o'clock, shooting downtown, and the investigation has taken a turn that we were hoping it would not.
Yeah, and regardless of how people may feel about having the National Guard here, you certainly don't want anything like this to happen. These are Americans who have come here in service to country and community, and we are thinking about the people they serve with. We're thinking about their families and all the people who happen to be there in that moment today as those gunshots rang out. We're going to continue, obviously, to follow this throughout the afternoon.
Yeah. Bad stuff, man. Very, very, very sad stuff.
One of the Secret Service agents.
It all about. We
Right.
don't know the details, unfortunately.
2 West Virginia National Guard members dead after shooting. So this is Fox News that's confirming it. This is very, very tragic news. It's a sad day for America where, you know, these bad guys, these cretins, they don't care who their target is. Being a member of service, sacrificing your life to serve your country, to serve God and country, is not even enough of a protection from you. There's some people in this country that are just as dangerous as any enemy America faces around the world. They're just as dangerous as Al-Qaeda. They're just as dangerous as, you know, if we were to go to war with the Chinese or the Russians. They're just as dangerous as Maduro. We have sometimes the enemy that we should be focusing on, the enemy at home. This is sad stuff here.
And Bob, those details.
Unbelievable.
Was walking by and I said, where is the mayor? They said she is here in D.C. for the holidays, so she is in town and she is currently being briefed on everything that happened here today. As they do get more information, we can expect a press conference from her. We can expect more information coming out as she is currently gathering it herself. But as this remains a very active scene, again, as we were down a block further on 17th Street, and not too long ago, they pushed all the media members back to 6th Street because they wanted to expand this investigation. There's been a lot of talks on how many people were injured. Of course, now we do know that 2 guardsmen were shot as we do wait more information. But that is all the same information that Mayor Muriel Bowser is getting right now as well. And again, we can expect more information from her office as she gathers and puts that together. I was talking to some National Guardsmen as they were looking into expanding into different districts and different wards, had the opportunity to say, yes, we want these National Guardsmen to come into our neighborhoods for the beautification, to help clean it up, to also just have their presence in order to make the streets safer.
But people don't seem to understand, and, you know, maybe I might get in trouble with this. I'm not Democrat or Republican. In fact, I just keep forgetting to change my political affiliation from the Democratic Party to independent. That is truly who I am. I'm an independent person at this point in my life. It took me a long time to get here, but I'm here. But what people don't seem to understand is I've studied this and really followed this whole expanding the military and law enforcement and federal crackdowns into these high crime areas. And I'm not going to speak on whether it's right or wrong. What I know is what people are saying on the ground level. What people don't seem to realize, because a lot of us are privileged not to live in these environments. I grew up in a similar environment, but I don't live in that kind of environment anymore. It took a lifetime of hard work to get out of that environment. People don't realize that the people who live in these poor areas are scared. They're really scared. They live their life day to day afraid of their neighbors, afraid of their homes, which are supposed to be the places that you feel the most comfortable. And for whatever political purposes, whether it's their hidden agendas or not, in many instances, they're embracing this added level of law enforcement presence because, like I told people 1,000 times, when I grew up in Harlem during the crack epidemic, the NYPD was not very nice to me as a citizen. And I'm a type of person that I don't, I'm not quick to call racist. I'm not quick to do all of that stuff. I have faith in this country. I love this country. I'm a patriot. You'll never hear me say I hate my country or this is the worst country. I think that those are blasphemous words. And I question the people who use that type of language. And I also invite them to go live somewhere else. But I always said that that when I dig deep down into my memories of growing up in such a violent community at that time, you go to Harlem now, it's beautiful. Many of you would want to live in Harlem now because it's been gentrified. But you lived there when I lived there, when crack vials were all over the streets and zombies were taking over the streets at night. Literal zombies, people so high they look like the undead. I always remembered that I was more afraid of the gangbangers, the Bloods, the Crips, and the drug dealers than I was of the police. It doesn't matter how hard the police came down on the community. It doesn't matter how many rude Long Island cops who looked at me like I was subhuman would police my community and treat me like crap. It doesn't matter. I feared the gangbangers, the drug dealers, and the crackhead zombies more than I feared the police. That is how these folks feel in their communities. And for whatever reason, regardless of your political beliefs, these National Guardsmen, FBI, ATF people who are flooding these zones are helping. They're making these communities safer. Now, this is a great opportunity to open up a higher level of discussion than we've had maybe in the last 30 or 40 years in this country. I would dare say, as an independent thinker, that if you don't want these agencies in these communities, then we got to ask ourselves, what can we do to support the infrastructure that exists right now that those agencies would not be needed? Now let's have that conversation. I think that conversation could create change in these communities that could last forever. We need more money for those police departments, more money for mental health treatment, more money for after-school programs to keep these kids off the streets. Change these laws and go in the opposite direction of, these police reform laws and start sending these criminals to jail, or sentencing reform. Send these criminals to jail when they do these crimes. Send them to jail. Reverse bail reform. If people keep committing crimes, don't give them bail. These are the things that keep communities safe. I used to remember when the police would come and do their sweeps and they take the gangsters away. And at that time, they was tough on crime. This was Bill Clinton time. And then we would all breathe fresh air knowing that that thug was not going to come out of prison for years. And then when those thugs would come out of prison 5-6 years, they would be new men. Most of them that I remember did not go back into the drug deal game, did not go back into the gangbanging game. They changed. They were broken. And maybe that's what they needed. They needed to be broken. Sounds like a scary word, right? That they got broke when they were upstate. Well, guess what? That small sacrifice of putting a leash on them saved our lives because we were afraid. We were more afraid of the gangbangers and the thugs and the drug dealers than we were afraid of the police. And now here we have 2 National Guardsmen sacrificing their life to protect a community they're not even from. And it's sounding like it was a targeted attack. It sounded like it was a targeted attack. Let's go ahead and read a statement from the West Virginia governor. It says, "It is with great sorrow that we can confirm both members of the West Virginia National Guard who were shot earlier today in Washington, D.C. have passed away from their injuries. These brave West Virginians lost their lives in the service of their country. We are in ongoing contact with federal officials as the investigation continues. Our entire state grieves with their families, their loved ones, and the Guard community. West Virginia will never forget their service or their sacrifice. We will demand full accountability for this horrific act." It's a statement from the West Virginia governor. Keep going, man. Oh, boy.
Florida for Thanksgiving, so we know that the president isn't in the White House at this time. I'm sure that there are still senior advisors and maybe even
Go to this one.
A lot of awards selected to
Less than 2 hours ago, Angie, this is no surprise that we are getting conflicting reports at this point. But when that social media post came out from the governor that these National Guard troops were indeed killed, obviously that is a credible source for us, and that is what we reported. But now we're hearing the governor say there's conflicting reports.
And just to give you some context.
So the governor, this is live that I just clicked in. I clicked the live button, so this is happening right now. It might very well be that they're still alive, and let's pray for that, man. We love those kind of mistakes. Apparently, they're saying it's conflicting reports. The governor's the one who told us that those guys were deceased. Now the governor is backtracking that. That's beautiful. We want these guys to live. We do not want them to die. So if this is the case where this was an erroneous report, let's pray to God that that is the actual case. Guys, please hit that like button, support the channel.
Text when we have breaking news like this, and one that involves so many different officials, so many different agencies. I know alone, just to begin, we're talking D.C. Police, National Guard. We saw the ATF, Federal Protective Services. We have their local authorities for the Guardsmen and where they're from. They're all coordinating this, and we are doing our best, as is everybody, and not jumping ahead of the facts, not jumping ahead of conclusions here, just relying on our sources and the official ones at that. What we do know, though, is that as of right now, you mentioned the White House is on lockdown, but they don't believe that there is an imminent threat out there to the public. But with any investigation like this, especially one that involves members of our U.S. military, this is going to be a huge investigation where they're going to have to set the perimeter, canvass the scene.
All right, real quick, big shout out to Dr. Cataclysm says, $5 super chat says, I hope that wasn't a targeted attack and something like collateral damage from a criminal enterprise. If it is, this will unleash something bad. Yeah, you know, you got people like Tim Pool, and you know, I love his show. I watch it. I don't always agree with Tim Pool at all, but I love the format that they have. Not a big fan of some of his co-hosts. I think you need to bring me on your show, Tim Pool. Let me stop being a player hater. Anyway, Tim Pool, great show. He's been talking a lot for years about a civil war, and I never agreed with that. But in these last few months, I think if ever we were closer to one, this is the moment now. Now, I don't think that a civil war is going to happen at all. And I'll tell you why we would never have a civil war, at least in any time around this era right now, is because people still have their houses. People still have their nice cars. You know, heat is expensive, but your house is still warm. You know, you got all these changes to like Medicaid and welfare that are coming from the federal government because of the big, beautiful bill. But at the end of the day, if you really, really, really need food, you're going to get some type of assistance. In order for there to be a civil war, you have to take away the comforts that America has. And since we all have those comforts, we're not going to want to leave our house with our guns and sacrifice it all if there's nothing worth sacrificing it all for. What we do have is a ideological divide, and it's strong. And that ideological divide is going to motivate people on the fringes of our society to do horrible things, like the Charlie Kirk thing, like maybe this, if this is targeted. You know, you're going to have those things. Gonna have the Proud Boys going out there and marching saying you will not replace us, or Jews will not replace us, whatever they were saying. I don't want to misquote them. There's something about people replacing. These are the fringes on the left and the right. They will be motivated. The BLM rights, these fringes are going to be motivated to do these things. But as long as the everyday American has a roof over their head, has some food in their fridge, and has their cars and their cable TV and their Netflix, you're not going to motivate people to leave their homes and go and fight their fellow neighbors and citizens. It's not going to happen. I don't see that happening now. We need like a natural disaster where resources are spread thin. There's major mismanagement in the government, and people are like, all right, it's either I go out there and fight or I starve. That's what's going to motivate a civil war. So what I will say is, if this is targeted, it will give fodder for more federal involvement in what's happening in these states, and it will open the door, depending on whatever political affiliation this alleged shooter may have, if it's targeted, if it's not just a thug who's like just having a gunfight, because that's possible too. This is Washington, D.C. It's a very dangerous area of the country, and it's shameful because it should be like a Beijing. And listen, I don't mess with the communists, but I'm giving an example. It should be like a Hong Kong and a Beijing. This is our capital. It should be a model city. Now, if you leave Hong Kong and Beijing, China sucks. Chinese people tell you that. I know a lot of them. They'll tell you, it sucks. That's why we want to come here to America. But when you go to those cities, those are model cities. DC should be a model city. The poor people should be living in high-rise condos that are well-maintained. There should be no such thing as an old building unless it's a historical building that dates back to our past and that's being managed by the Park Service. The whole city of DC should be nothing but glass and steel. They should have the most intricate subway system, bus system, whatever, because DC should be a representative of America's wealth and power, not New York. New York should too, don't get me wrong. LA, Miami. But DC is what the world sees when they come and visit our country. When they have business with our president, when they have business with America, they go to DC and they go to New York. New York is already doing what New York does. You go to New York is a different place, man. It's got its own charm. But you go to DC and all you see is trash. New York is getting a little dirty because it's a mismanagement these last couple of years. We'll see what the Zoran dude wants to do. Hopefully he'll make them clean up the streets, the sanitation department. But New York caters to 8 million people, and it's cleaner than Washington, D.C. 8 million people, and there's less homeless people sleeping on the streets than Washington, D.C. 8 million people, and there's less black bodies getting assassinated every day from other black people than Washington, D.C. Less crime, less hunger, less poverty, less mismanagement than Washington, D.C., and it caters to 8 million people. And I specifically said black bodies, not because I'm trying to make this about race. I'm just giving you statistics. The majority of people being killed in Washington, D.C. are members of the African-American population that lives out there. That should not happen in Washington, D.C. Whatever programs you think could help a population, whatever experimental social programs you think could give, whether it's universal incomes or tax breaks or higher tax, whatever you want, whether you left or right, this should be the training ground. This should be the proving ground of what could help our country at large. But yet, it's a cesspool. Whatever. Let's keep going. I'm sorry. You guys got me on my soapbox.
It's going to take a lot of time.
The street beyond that, where you see the flashing lights, that would be 17th Street at H. The incident is to the right, 1 block north at 17th and I is where this shooting happened. So pedestrians are able to get as far as Connecticut Avenue, but cars are being kept several blocks away from where we are. Some are able to leave this area. Those that were in parking garages here or on the curb, but no vehicular traffic is allowed into this area. Again, you can see some pedestrians, but it's a wide perimeter still around this scene. And as Josh was doing moments ago, we've talked to people as we've been sharing this news, now conflicting news about the conditions of the two West Virginia National Guards men, women, we're not sure genders, but who were shot this afternoon, literally just 3 blocks from the White House, slightly north and west of the White House. For what reason, we don't know. You would almost believe if two of them were shot, they had to have been targeted in some way, but we don't know. And the gunman who allegedly shot at them, according to our law enforcement sources and even the president's tweet, has been wounded and is at the hospital as well. So it's just an odd scene here.
All right, so listen, look, we've been down this rabbit hole before. We have been down this rabbit hole before. And I just want to say that you cannot believe everything that you see on Twitter, okay? And since this person's face is blurry, I feel comfortable showing it only because their face is blurry. But it's subject to change, ladies and gentlemen. So apparently, this is a picture allegedly. And if it's wrong, it is what it is. I'm going out my way to preface this for you guys. Allegedly, this is a picture of the gunman who is being taken into an ambulance after being wounded after shooting these two guardsmen. This may totally be a bullcrap picture. I'm not sure, but, you know, we're trying to figure this out together. Let's keep going.
Again, as I come back to the fact that you have a lot of people who are down here for the holiday and wanted to kind of take a look at the White House, and what they're finding is a major crime scene.
I think during your last hit or so, you were talking to and delivering the news that that we thought that these guardsmen had been killed. Again, conflicting reports at this point. The governor of West Virginia saying, hold up on that after he confirmed that both members were killed. But now he's saying that there are conflicting reports about the conditions of these two guard members. Are you hearing any reaction from the people on the street about these conflicting reports?
Yeah, I think what the most the questions I'm getting from folks are what literally happened. Hi, folks. How you doing? Hi. Where are you visiting from?
Guatemala.
Guatemala. Did you hear what happened down the street here?
No.
But you know the White House grounds are closed.
Yes.
Okay, so these folks are from Guatemala, and look what they seen when they come to America. This is the memory they're gonna have when they go back to their country. They came to the greatest country on the planet, and listen, Guatemala has its issues, but she's from Guatemala. Do you know how expensive it is to come to America from Guatemala? Our money is worth light years more than what their money is worth. So they spent a fortune. This is like us going to a Hawaii vacation. Hawaii vacation is super expensive for Americans. The plane, the hotel, everything's super expensive for Americans. This is their Hawaii vacation, to come to America, to come to our seat of power, and this is the memory they're going to have.
Two National Guardsmen. I don't know if in your visit here you've seen National Guard troops on the street. Two of them have been shot just down the street. We don't know their conditions.
Wow.
What's your reaction to that? We don't know the scenario that led to them being shot, but there's a chance they didn't make it, but we're not 100% sure.
All right, so we got video that's coming out. We got video that's coming out now. Let's go ahead and put this over here so you guys can see it. This looks like it's a video of the fight. Apparently that's it. You can see that the window is shot out in a bus station. Crazy. Oh. Let's go back. Boom. Okay, I thought I saw something. But yeah. And somebody said we look like a third world country with all the violence that occurs in here. They said it's heartbreaking to see what happened to our country. Yeah, I mean, this stuff could be this stuff can be easily remedied. There was a time when the country was safe, and that was a time that we decided that we were going to be tough on crime. And we're not going to get back to that space until we acknowledge that we have to take crime seriously. We have to. We have to. We have to take crime seriously. We have to say to ourselves, there's certain crimes that we could be lenient on, but when it comes to violent crimes, we need to be serious on crime. So I'm not an advocate of locking up somebody who steals bread from a store for the rest of their life. But if you keep stealing bread from the store, then we're going to have to remove you from society. That's what I believe. That's what I think. That's, I don't know. It looks like they're using force. Sometimes when it looks like they're using force. Let me take another one, because sometimes when they're working on people, it gets very like hyperactive. You think they're using force on a person, but they're really just doing CPR and trying to work on a person. Let me see. I'll let you know right now if they're using force on a guy, like restraining him, or if they're trying to save somebody's life. Let me see. They're struggling with this guy, obviously. They're struggling with him. So yeah. So they're struggling with that guy. They're struggling with him. It's a lot going on right now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep going.
It's not the case, and that they are still with us. I do want to ask, and there's a future discussion to be had here about the National Guard troops who are in D.C., this deployment being in U.S. cities, because typically we see the National Guard helping when there's a natural disaster, when there are other things that happen, but not pretty much for law enforcement. And I will say the National Guard troops that we've seen here in the district the past few weeks especially, there have been beautification projects.
So I got a longer video now where not only are they taking the guy down, but they're also working on one of the victims. So let's watch that together. That stuff. Big shout out, Dr. Casa says, this is why I couldn't be law enforcement. Something like this would bring out the combat medic in me. Emphasis on the combat. I hear you, brother. I hear you, man. This is sad stuff, and it's enough to infuriate anybody. So look at him. Look at this guy's legs sprawled out. So it looks like you have two victims. So it looks like over here is a suspect, and over here is somebody who's injured, who is being worked on. So it looks like the bad guy and the victims are in close proximity. They're working on him right now. Another one. See them legs sprawled out like that? Never a good sign. Never a good sign when those legs are sprawled out. You want to see those legs moving. When those legs moving, that means the person's conscious. They feeling pain. They're withering in pain. When those legs are just sprawled out like that, it's never, ever a good sign. Let's pray that these guys are still alive, man. Let's pray that they're still
there
alive.
have been more crime deterrence.
We don't know. Unfortunately, there's so much heated rhetoric that comes across today. You don't know if these National Guardsmen were particularly targeted, or they interrupted a robbery, or they interrupted the individual with a firearm. I will tell you this. I have been with Fox News in Chicago, Los Angeles, and with you people in D.C., and everyone that interviews people on the street, they're happy to see another uniform and boots on.
So this picture right here. They're putting pressure on the guardsman's head. Clearly has a head wound. You have the U.S. Secret Service, I believe, police, USS something. I don't know it could be anything, because there's so many different law enforcement down there, but they're applying pressure to his head. When you get a head wound, there's almost nothing you can do to a head wound. You got to get him to the hospital as soon as possible. That's the only thing you could do. Can't really put pressure on it, but you could try and put pressure on it, but like you can't put a tourniquet on somebody's head. So you just put pressure on the head and you just wait for the ambulance to come and get the person to the hospital. It's sad stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This should not be happening in the US of A. We should all be ashamed that we live in a country where it's just this wanton murder seems to just be a norm. It's crazy, and I'm having a feeling that this is political. I have a feeling, ladies and gentlemen, I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong. But I have a feeling that this is political.
On the street, even if it's the National Guard, it's another uniformed personnel that gives them more of a sense of calm and peace and deterrence for the criminals when they see law enforcement around. One thing about law enforcement and the National Guard, and I have to tell you this, they condemn the police, they shoot bottle rockets at it.
All right, so this is them airlifting one of the victims to the hospital now. Wow. Keep going.
They call this.
I'm going to keep bringing it to you as I get it, ladies and
Fry
gentlemen.
them up like bacon pigs.
It's kind of going off around 2:15, and since then there have been mixed reports from what people have heard. 2 shots. I've heard some people say that they heard 3 shots. But at the time when they did hear it, it was chaos. People running scared in all directions, trying to get away from.
And listen, I mean, some of you guys are going to get upset with me if you want, but I don't care. We're adults. We should be able to agree to disagree. I just want to say that I think there is a valid point to be made when people are saying that the rhetoric that we're getting from some of these politicians, is part of the problem. It's part of the problem. I mean, people are so dyed in the wool on their own political ideologies that like they can't see what the other side might think, or what the consequences of actions may be. I used to be like that. I used to be so liberal. I didn't understand how people could not see the world through my eyes until I opened my eyes and understood that I was the problem, not the world. And so when you have politicians who are coming on the news saying that, the National Guard is occupying force, the National Guard are fascists, the National Guard are going to start shooting civilians, and there are they're not supposed to be on these streets and they're violating the Constitution. Listen, I'm not here to tell you whether having the National Guard in these communities is good or not. That's not for me to determine. That's for the members of that community to determine, and for them to go to court and sue like they've been doing to determine whether it's constitutional or not. That's a separate conversation. But in the interim, if you're saying these things, you're going to incite crazy people who are part of our community who cannot see beyond that rhetoric to do bad things. There are a lot of unhinged people who get cues from these statements, and it legitimizes the violence that's in their souls. It legitimizes that violent action because it's like, oh no, I'm a hero. I'm not a violent person. I'm not a schmurderer. Oh, I'm a hero. Look what I'm doing. I'm fighting for the Constitution. I'm a right fighter. They legitimize bad people when they allow their rhetoric to be twisted and used as a weapon against their fellow Americans. I think that's a problem. We're seeing that a lot, especially with the Trump administration, where now it's like we hear the words fascist being thrown around more so than ever in this country. And it's not right when we call our fellow countrymen communists just because they may want a little bit more social programs. And it's not right when we call our fellow countrymen fascists just because they may want, something different than what we want. It's just not fair. And it doesn't even jive with the definition of these words. But it's incredibly inflammatory, and it results in people becoming terrorists. And that's exactly what it is. A lot of these people are terrorists, but they think that they're fighting a righteous cause, but really they're just being manipulated by these politicians so that each side can maintain its own balance of power. Let's keep going.
They do was a very dangerous scene. And since then, the police, they say, responded quickly. And this has been locked down. When we first got here, we were able to get up to 17th Street. But it wasn't long after that the police wanted to be able to expand their active scene, active search, be able to push all the media back. And there's dozens of media here. And on top of that, there's a lot of people. This is the holidays. People are in Washington, D.C., visiting with family, coming up here to see the sights and the sounds. There's been a lot of pedestrian traffic. They pushed us quickly back to 16th Street. So that's where we are right now, 16th and I. The information, again, that we are getting from those that saw and heard what happened is mixed. And, of course, we really want to wait until we get the information, which will be at a press conference the police are holding. I am told the mayor will be there as well.
All right, just want to say this real quick, guys. Today we're obviously talking about politics because we're talking about a shooting that happened in the middle of Capitol Hill. But I just want to remind everybody, this show is not about politics. Today we could talk about it, and because it's sad, and politics is just so intertwined with the most likely murder of these two National Guardsmen. But once we leave this show, it's dead. We're not coming back. We're not going to be bringing politics up while we're giving a voice to the voiceless, with little girls that have been victimized and people who have been murdered and all that stuff. All right. So I just want to let you guys know today is a safe space. We can have these conversations today. But once this live ends, it's back to business. If you want to do that consistently, go to a different channel. Today, 100%, the door has been opened. It's all good. But tomorrow, no bueno. I just want to let you guys know that, all right?
Well, that she was being briefed on all of this. That's going to be happening over where Nana is. So as soon as we do have that.
And probably not tomorrow because tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I might do a show early for Thanksgiving. I don't know. I mean, Thanksgiving is the day for family, but, 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, nobody's doing nothing on Thanksgiving. We're not eating the turkey at 11 o'clock in the morning. So I might actually do a live tomorrow. Anybody's bored, you want to check out the show, you could come through and join us, and we'll find something probative to talk about. But definitely, you guys get the gist of what I'm saying. Let's keep going.
We know Nana will bring that information. But let us hear some of the sound of a woman who was there when this all took place. And from her account, what happened here?
I was in the Uber. I heard right in front of 17th Street, and I heard boom, boom 2 times. And then the Uber driver said, "Why are all these people running?" So then I look out the window, and it's little children, adults running, children on both sides of the street, running in the opposite direction. The supervision is saying to the children, "Go, go, run." And then I heard, "Help, help."
Oh.
So it was very chaotic, as she said early on, but with the police.
I mean, they cut her off in the middle of her eyewitness account of what happened. I mean, I hope it was a technical glitch because she's who we needed to hear from. She literally watched it, or at least she watched the immediate aftermath and how the people reacted to what happened. Let's keep going.
Coming in, with the police coming in here quickly and locking everything down, they said they've had the area very safe, very controlled off, very pushed back here. But what we're having right now is a lot of people that are leaving work, trying to get to their cars, trying to get out of the area that we're here just for what their normal day was before they go off on holiday of Thanksgiving tomorrow. So right now, everybody's just really kind of standing around waiting to get the information from one to the next, which, as they're doing this active investigations, you can kind of see here behind me. When we first came up, there was nothing but police cars flashing lights down this entire street on both sides. It looks like.
All right. Big shout out to Dr. Cataclysm, $20 super chat. He says, this is bringing up memories for me. You wrap your guys up as good as you can and run to what you hope is their salvation. You hope that you are enough and you don't have to look the widow in the eyes and know you failed them. But then any of you guys who don't know, Dr. Cataclysm has served. He was a medic. So, we're sorry that this is kind of triggering you, Dr. Cataclysm. But we definitely thank you for your service. You are an American hero. Let's keep going, man. We appreciate you, brother.
Like it's died down a little bit, but obviously still down the street, a very, very heavy presence as this investigation continues to be very active right now.
All right, Julia, thank you so much. And I do want to say that Pete Hegseth, the Department of Defense Secretary, has just made a statement on camera. He posted that on Twitter about 11 minutes ago. We are working to turn that around for you, and we will play that out as soon as we get it. But again, we're getting responses from many top officials in the Trump administration. We have heard from the president, who posted on social media calling the gunman an animal, saying, quote, the animal that shot the 2 National Guardsmen, with both being critically wounded and now in 2 separate hospitals, also severely wounded, but regardless will pay a very steep price. God bless our great National Guard and all of our military and law enforcement. These are truly great people. As the president of the United States, the president goes on. But again, the president has been briefed on the situation.
We want to go now to that video that was just posted online by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
Very productive meetings, but I want to start by saying after those meetings, myself and my team were notified that 2 National Guardsmen have been shot in Washington, D.C., critically wounded. The shooter shot in a cowardly, dastardly act targeting the best of America. Heroes willing to serve in Washington, D.C., serve for people they don't know and they've never met, because they love their country and their capital and their community. They were willing to do dangerous things others were not, because they love their fellow Americans. Someone decided to turn that into targeting National Guardsmen. That will only stiffen our resolve. We will never back down. We will secure our capital. We will secure our cities. In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army, to the National Guard to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C.
I told you, I said it's not going to help if you do something like this. It's only going to make it worse if you're a person who doesn't want to see National Guardsmen in the streets. If this was politically motivated, all it did is just help to strengthen the resolve of the people who believe oppositely of the shooter. Let's keep going.
This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. The drop in crime has been historic. The increase in safety and security has been historic. But if criminals want to conduct things like this, violence against America's best, we will never back down. President Trump will never back down. That's why the American people elected him. America and our warriors, our National Guardsmen, are strong. And so we're following this very closely. We're getting information rapidly. And I mentioned the faith of this country, the Christian faith, the prayers. I would ask for prayers for our National Guardsmen.
Excuse me, Mr.
Appeals to heaven for our National Guardsmen, for their families, on bended knee as a War Department, as a nation.
Excuse me.
We will never back down.
Excuse me.
So what is happening here? Who's that, the Telemundo person? You don't stop. This it doesn't matter what politician is talking. It doesn't matter if it's Trump, Pelosi, Schumer, Hegseth, whatever. He's not done talking. Why is this reporter interrupting him? Excuse me, why are you interrupting him? Let him finish, because what he says has adverse effects to this country. I mean, this is crazy. Let's keep going.
Think about them right now.
Venezuela.
What are you asking about Venezuela? We just got two guardsmen shot, and you asking about Venezuela? You asking about Venezuela, and we got 2 guardsmen shot in our capital? Oh, Lord. Oh, my God.
A couple of great, productive meetings with the President and Minister of Defense here, where we are dedicated to the counter-cartel effort here. Criminality knows no boundaries, whether it's the United States of America and and Washington, D.C., or it's the Caribbean and
that's obviously Pete Hegseth at the Department of Defense at the Pentagon there. Moving on to another topic of national interest there, but addressing these 2 National Guardsmen shot in Northwest D.C. near the White House, and giving us a few extra details, a few new details there, including we were wondering whether these guardsmen were targeted. He used the phrase and said they were targeted. The shooting that targeting National Guardsmen. He also added that he will ask the president to add 500 additional National Guard troops on the ground in the district. And obviously, we've been reporting for the past week or so that a judge had ruled that the deployment of these troops was illegal by the president.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying, anybody who's been following this since the National Guard arrived here in Washington, D.C. during this takeover back in August, that this activation has not gone without controversy. And the big question also coming out of all of this, which was partially just answered, at least to an immediate response, who knows what will be added onto that afterwards, but is how is this going to change the landscape of this federal surge here in our nation's capital? When you look at the numbers, I think the estimate was like 2,190 National Guard members currently in the district right now. A lot of them from this area, but as we have seen, other states as well. We've talked a little bit about how these are not full-time soldiers, right? These are citizen soldiers. They have a whole nother life. They have a whole nother job, and it's only when they are called to action, called to serve, and in this case, serve the mission of the president in protecting not only the citizens, but the visitors of the city. They answer that call. And so as a result of that, we are now understand that we are going to see an influx. We are going to see
Well, he says that he will put in the request to the president. We don't know if that will be approved, and will the president also use this incident to reignite the crime emergency that has, since been ended months ago in D.C., but yet the National Guard troops remained, and that's been the Attorney General Brian Schwab in the district has fought that. The mayor has fought that. There has been city leaders who don't want the National Guard troops or don't think that they're needed, and that D.C. police alone can tackle any crime issues in the city. But we have.
All right, so I think that's all we got so far. I'll leave you guys with this. Since this rude reporter wanted to ask about Venezuela, I'll tell you what my opinion is on Venezuela. I almost feel like Maduro is being paid by the CIA to provoke America to invade his country. Listen to this. It's like he's singing songs, he's dancing, he's acting very erratic. He got the Bolivar sword, and he said that he will defend Venezuela to the very end. Like, he's not saying things that one would expect a person in his position to say to hopefully de-escalate American aggression towards his country. I do firmly believe that by the end of the year, we will have some type of entanglement in Venezuela. We have a lot of money in America, but you have to justify the amount of troop buildup that we have in the Caribbean right now. You have to justify removing an aircraft carrier from an area that actually needs an aircraft carrier, which is basically the Middle East, to sail that thing over the Atlantic, which is not an easy sail. Rough seas in the Atlantic. To sail those folks all the way to the Caribbean. Like, I'm a military buff, guys. I've never served in the military. I'm law enforcement, but I've never served in the military. But I love the military. The only reason why I didn't go to the military is because I wanted to be a pilot. And at the time, I had vision that would not allow me to be an aviator. I had an inside track to become an aviator. I dated a girl whose brother was a very high-ranking Navy aviator official, and he put me on a fast track to get into the aviation program, but my eyes could not pass the test that would allow me to be an aviator, so I chose to go a different path after that. But I'm a military buff. We could have sent amphibious assault ships to the Caribbean, and those are smaller aircraft carrier-like vessels that have 30, 40 ships. An aircraft carrier has between 70 and 80 ships, right? Of planes. Amphibious assault ships, they could carry Marines, they carry hovercrafts that could, get on the land and drop off troops. They have F-35Bs, the ones that go up and down like the Harrier. They have jets. They have all of that. You could have sent a few of those ships over there. That's not what we did. It's not what we did. We literally sent over there one of our newest aircraft carriers. We wanted to make a statement. I don't want to see a war out there, to be honest with you. I just don't want to see a war, but there are two things that's happening with Venezuela that we've seen happen before in the Middle East, and people have to understand that all history does is repeat itself, ladies and gentlemen. All history does is repeat itself. Venezuela has two things that we need desperately right now, one a little bit more than the other. We don't need oil as much as we probably did in the past because the oil market is pretty saturated right now. Oil prices are going down. But it's nice to have a regional player supplying a huge amount of oil. And Venezuela has a huge amount of oil. But Venezuela has one more thing that we need desperately, and that is rare earth minerals. Venezuela has a untapped large reserve of rare earth minerals, and we need that for our technology. So they have vast quantities of oil, and they have rare earth minerals. We're going to invade these guys if Maduro does not find some peace deal that results in him giving power to the woman that won. I forgot her name, but she's going to be a puppet government. That's what it is. It's a fact. Washington owns her. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I'm American. Whatever benefits our country, I'm good with it. But unless Maduro, I would say by the end of this year, gives up power, I could see us between December and February starting to make incursions into Venezuela. And those incursions are going to start with dropping bombs on suspected drug cartel sites, targets. President Trump has already recently in the last few days named Maduro a narco-terrorist. That now gives him the latitude to do sanctions on Maduro. It also gives him latitude to possibly do strikes on Maduro. And it's going to start with the strikes. And guess what? They have an army that poses no threat to us. They do have numbers, but they don't pose any threat to us. But they do have anti-aircraft missiles, whatever. They're going to fire their missiles at our planes. They may or may not hit it. Most likely not, because our planes are so much more technologically advanced in the systems that they possess. But whether they hit or not, the retaliation is going to be provocation. The retaliation is going to be provocation for a larger war. I don't presume that we would have a ground war in Venezuela. I don't think so. I think what we would end up doing is flattening their infrastructure with our air power. I think what we'll end up doing is flattening their infrastructure with our air power, establishing a forward base that will end up being permanent. Like we had that airport in Baghdad. We had that airport in Afghanistan before we gave them up. I don't think we'll ever give that up. We'll have like a piece of Guantanamo. Like we got a piece of Guantanamo in Cuba. We have American soil on Cuba, and Cuba is our enemy, right? We're going to have the same thing in Venezuela. We're going to establish a forward base, and we're going to bomb the crap out of them, and we're going to end up, somebody's going to ex-nay Maduro, they're going to collect the $40 million bounty on his head, and the puppet government is going to take over, and hopefully things will work out in Venezuela. Hopefully. That is my prediction on Venezuela. I appreciate you guys for joining me today. Let's pray for the servicemen who lost their lives. Let's pray that it was a random act of violence. Because if this was targeted and politically motivated, it's only going to serve one purpose, which is to drive a divide further in our country. And we really just don't need that right now. We really just don't need it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Strategic is out of here. Peace.